is going on? It is Andy coming to you on a Monday, and while I have high hopes for this final week of October, I have to admit I am relatively sad for that exact reason. It is the final week of October. You know it's my favorite month of the year. You know every single year I'm drafting October #1 overall in my fantasy month draft. I've stated the reason dozens of times. I don't need to do it again. But if you want to know, one of it is, so tonight I believe they're calling the autumnal equinox or something like that. Why is that? Because all of the 4 major sports are playing, even baseball. If there was ever a time it was going to be remotely exciting, it's going to be in the World Series. We have a World Series game. We have a Monday Night Football game. We have the NHL, even the NBA with all their paid-off mobster players and their 3D poker tables. All that's going on tonight. That is why October is so great, but it comes to an end in a couple of days. But let's end October strong here on a Monday, because as far as the NHL is concerned, there are only 2 games on this slate. Why is that? Because tomorrow we're going to have to deal with the fakest imitation of the red zone you'll ever see, something they call the frozen frenzy. They try to hoodwink you into believing that it's anything that resembles the NFL red zone, although you can't. It has to be a sport. Red zone, you can just from a glance say, wow, look at that. That's exciting. They're approaching, the 20-yard line. We're going to see if they score or not. Hockey, you could go to a game that was just insane for 10 minutes, and that could be the most boring defensive game you've ever seen in your life. Hockey does not have that. You can go from game to game and it will be exciting, unless you want to just try to hop from power play to power play, and then if a game's in overtime, you're way better off just doing a quad box and literally watching the games simultaneously. But they'll try to say that the frozen frenzy is some crazy thing. All I know is I got to go through encyclopedias to find all the sniffs that I'm going to have to give. But as far as tonight goes, we only have 2 games. And when there's a 2-game slate, I can take some time to teach you guys some concepts. Every single week, I teach you some things, because if you teach a man to sniff, you feed him for life. How about I feed you and I teach you at the same time? So let's do a little teaching first. I've taught you about some trickle-down snakeonomics. I've taught you how money lines in the NHL are just wild. You're going to be chasing your tail. It's even crazier than the NFL. I told you all the values are in line combos. Trickle-down snakeonomics. Guy gets promoted, you bet on him. Guy gets demoted, you bet against him. But how about some other stuff? Okay, how about this? Here's something similar. I know if you're a hockey-oriented person, you already know this, but you'd be amazed at how many people know zero about hockey, and they just kind of watch these videos and put in bets and try to figure out as we go. So let's take something like the line combinations. Let's say it's a night like the Frozen Frenzy, and you're looking at all these potential combinations, and you have to decide which ones you want to put in. Here's something that could potentially help you weed out a few. When a team is at home, they are slightly more likely, the best players on that team, the top line players, they're more likely to do well at home. They're set up better to do well at home. And no, it's not because, the friendly confines of their home arena and the fans cheering for them, or Stevie Bong Rips thinking about how Nick Lidstrom knew the boards at the Joe Louis Arena and he would intentionally bank them off the back so that they ricocheted out and create some chaos goals right in front of the net. No, neither of those things. Something as simply known as last change. When you are at home, you get to dictate who is out on the ice for you after the road team. So let's say there's a whistle, okay? The road team has to decide who goes out onto the ice first. Then you get to match it, meaning if you see Alex Ovechkin hop onto the ice for the Washington Capitals, you now as a coach can put all your best defensive players out there. When you're the home team, the top line is more likely to succeed than on the road, when you could be facing a solid defensive team like the Winnipeg Jets, and then you see Keller and Schmaltz, who have been breaking up points, not able to pile up points like that on the road last night. Which line was able to win that game for them? The whole Cooley, Gunther, Peterka line. Why is that? Because on the road, second lines have more favorable matchups. Now look, it's never going to universally apply. The best players are the best players for a reason. They can rise to the occasion. But in general, the second lines have better matchups on the road. Top lines have better matchups at home, meaning they have a higher likelihood to succeed on their own home ice, and second line players are more likely to succeed on the road. So now we can take some of those lessons and apply that to some of the line combos and bets that we're going to have here on a Monday night. We have the Ottawa Senators facing the Boston Bruins. Let's look at the Ottawa Senators, who just went on the road and had a full explosion, full rake fest. So now they're coming home. And like I mentioned, the top line, they're going to get the matchups they want against the Boston Bruins. If this game was in Boston, Boston can try to put McAvoy out there, put their checking center, and try to mitigate what Tim Stutzle and the top line of the Ottawa Senators were going to put out there. But I'm just saying, when you're looking at tiebreakers and what will nudge you in a direction of taking a certain play, I think the Ottawa Senators being at home bodes well for that top line, who was just fully raking last game. So give me the simple Tim Stutzle point and Drake Batherson point coming in at a plus 110. But if they continue this binge that they started last game, and they are getting those great matchups at home because they do have the last change, if I'm right about those two, I want to be super right, and I want to maximize that amount of right, because just getting the plus 110, it isn't quite enough for me. You guys can see eye to eye with this. You want more. So let me try to juice up those line combos. We have that top line of Stutzle and Batherson. They both play on the top power play. In this situation where you don't have a full line that's on the top power play, give me the guy who's most likely to defer. And how do you figure that out? Well, look, if you don't watch hockey, you don't know hockey, then you just kind of got to listen to me. But if you do know hockey and you do watch the Ottawa Senators, and Tim Stutzle and Drake Batherson are coming down on a 2-on-1, who is always looking to thread the needle for the tic-tac-toe? Who's always looking for the perfect pass? And who's the one who's just going to bury it? Yes, if you said Tim Stutzle is going to pass, that is the correct answer. So we're going to go with Tim Stutzle for the assist and the 2 points for Drake Batherson. But Andy, Tim Stutzle is the best player on the team. I want to take him for 2 points. That's fine. What did I teach you last week and the week before? You can always take the best forward on the team for 2 points with anyone? Bueller? Oh yes, the assist for the power play defenseman. So give me 2 points for Tim Stutzle and the assist for Jake Sanderson of the Ottawa Senators. But you don't have to stop just with the first line, because when you have an 8-goal binge like the Ottawa Senators did, and you have the top goal scorer in the NHL on the second line, do you believe that? A kid from Long Island named Shane Pinto, who got suspended for gambling. I guess that's something we're seeing a little bit more of around pro sports now. He's leading the NHL in goal scoring right now. Imagine he played with a guy who passed just as much as Stutzle, if not more. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Now, you're not going to tell me they're on the same power play, right? We got to do it. We got to take Shane Pinto for a point and Claude Giroux for an assist. Wait, why not take Shane Pinto, the leading goal scorer, for a goal? Because I'm not sick like you. I'm greedy, but not that greedy. I want to be right, get paid like I'm very right, but I don't need to have my full name engraved over the Bellagio, because I'm more than content having Pinto for a point and Claude Giroux for an assist. So that's what I got in that game. I'm hoping that the Ottawa Senators take that offensive confidence that they got from their last game into their next game at home against the Boston Bruins, who, do not forget, start of the season, were considered a lottery team, a bottom 5 team. They've had a very good start, but many teams have good starts. We say this every year. We see this every year with, just take your pick. Look how hot the Coyotes were to start last season. Look how hot Detroit was to start last season. Look how hot Montreal is to start this season. Why do we have to have this conversation every year? I'm just going to skip it and go to the other game on the slate, which is the Pittsburgh Penguins and the St. Louis Blues. Now, the main narrative here is there are 2 key pieces missing from this game, one from each team. On the Pittsburgh Penguins, Rickard Rakell, which leaves a huge void in that top line, because the Penguins have had 2 very set lines that have been working out well for them. The random Malkin, Brazo, Mantha line has been incredible for them. And now for the second straight year, the reliable Crosby, Rust, Rickard Rakell. Rickard Rakell is not available for the Pittsburgh Penguins, so they're short a top-line player. And what did we learn about trickle-down snakeonomics? If someone's out or they get demoted, who's up in that spot? Who's the Emmett Finney from the Detroit Red Wings, who got thrown on the top line with Dylan Larkin, and then all of a sudden, point, price was plus 130, price was plus 125. We have a situation like this for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We have a young Swede named Philip Hollander who's going to be thrown on that top line with Rust and Crosby. That's exactly why we have to take his point when it becomes available, because it is not available right now. But from what I've seen over the last couple of years, if a guy like Finney, who became available, they become available later on game day, closer to game time. Now, I don't know if that's because on some of the platforms you can request somebody to be added. That is something you can do on Fanduel. You can do it on Bet365. And many times they'll add the player. I think before this game starts, Philip Hollander will be added around plus 135, plus 140. That's usually the, I don't know who this guy is, and that's me talking about the sports book. This is the sports book. I don't know who this is, so I got to list him at what, like plus 130? Then all of a sudden he's on there with the top line guys. You can make a full line combination, and that guy is, remember this term, the high-priced player prop that stirs the high-priced line combo. And that's exactly what this Philip Hollander character is going to do. Then on the Blues side, this is where you guys are going to come in, because the Blues will not have Robert Thomas, or he left last game early, didn't return. Now, this is a team that has shuffled lines in 2 straight games. While Thomas was in that game, they scored 4 goals relatively quickly. He got injured. They ended up losing the game, blowing the lead. Now he might not be in there. And as you see, go check the player props on all these Blues players. They're unbelievably affordable is all that I'll say. But because I don't know, I don't know who's going to be playing with who. These are the types of things I know during the day around noon or so when I get to see the practice reports, the pregame skates, the morning skates. You see who's lined up with who, and then you can put your line combos in. But since I don't know that, I can't tell that to you now. But that's why you guys are here. You leave in the comments any sort of good St. Louis Blues bets. I know I have one avid fan from St. Louis somewhere. You give me your best St. Louis bets. Remember, teach a man to sniff, you feed him for life. You remember these things, you're not going to need me at some point. But if you do need me, you know where you can find me, and you can find the actual Blues combos. That's going to be over on the Patreon. It's patreon.com/Andy Francess. I think the Swiss cheese is starting to end, and I think we're starting to turn in the right direction. We will see. Oh, we will see tomorrow. Oh my God, it's gonna be so many. Oh God, I can already feel it in my back. Anyway, that is what I have for you in the NHL. But isn't there a Monday Night Football game on? Isn't there a Kansas City Chiefs game on? Why don't you have any sniffs for us from that game? Well, maybe I do. It's the last Monday in October. I better start saying some things about some things, because I see some situations worth talking about. Now, there's one guy I have to bring up because I keep casually throwing his name out there. He's won for us 3 straight weeks. I mean, we can't just turn our back on him, but I don't like that Brashard Smith's receiving number is now 16.5. We were there at the early shows. We saw the band at the random bar. There was no cover fee. We just walked in. We got our 11.5 yards. We took our money home. We laughed about it. Now it's up to 16, 17. We shouldn't have to pay Madison Square Garden prices. All right, fine. So I'm going to do the next best thing. I'm going to go over 2.5 receptions for Brashard Smith. He's cleared that in all these previous games that we've taken him, so I'm hoping he can do it one more time. I think the over 2.5 receptions, I think it's plus 105 when I looked last night. I'm still willing to take that. It's probably going to be, if he hits this has to be our swan song. Any sort of plus money is not going to be available. But I'm going to go with the over 2.5 receptions for Brashard Smith. But the other guy I want to bring up is old I.Pacheco, because now that this Chiefs offense is fully back, they got Worthy back, they got Rashee Rice back, nobody is facing fewer stacked boxes than the Kansas City Chiefs. And as you saw last week, now that they can move the ball and take multiple touchdown leads like they used to, you're just going to get some free running lanes for I.Pacheco, who's looked way better recently. And finally, the Chiefs are just going away from even giving Kareem Hunt anything that resembles an even timeshare, because he's just kind of a goal line short yardage slug. But between the 20s, you saw Pacheco last week, got to 58 yards, something like that. And we're seeing a line in the upper 40s. I think he should definitely be able to clear that. And he also scored his first rushing touchdown last week. which is why the over 3.5 rushing touchdowns is something that I still believe. Not only is he going to win, I think he's easily going to win it, despite the fact he got 0 cracks at it through 7 weeks. But now that things are looking better for this Chiefs offense, I'm feeling great about the over 3.5 rushing touchdowns. But we'll worry about that in the long run. For this game, I'm going to go with the over on rushing yards for I.Pacheco. And then I guess in the spirit of giving football picks, one final Pirate Parlay to end it.
Parlay! Parlay.
Let's go with the over 2.5 receptions for Bruins-Senators. Let's bump the I.Pacheco rushing yards up to over 60 rushing yards, 60 plus rushing yards. And then something that I know it seems a little wild, I'm going to go with the under on Travis Kelce's receptions. Why is that? Because with Rashee Rice back, he runs routes all in that same area, that intermediate range that Travis Kelce does. And as you saw last week with Rashee Rice's 10 targets, he's siphoning those away directly from Travis Kelce. Not taking stuff away down the field, not taking away stuff from, well, actually he is taking some stuff from behind the line of scrimmage. But Travis Kelce's area, if you look at those first 2 games from last season, Travis Kelce barely got targeted. And I know we're kind of playing with fire, but that's why they call it a Pirate Parlay. And that is what I have for you here on a Monday. Good luck to you. Sincerely. Better luck to me. More sincerely. Make sure you are doing those things that help out the channel here. Why? Because in a fair world, we don't know if it's fair or not. We'll find out one day. That will bring sports betting karma upon yourself. Especially, imagine you despise me. You come here to hate watch. Do you know the type of good sports betting karma you will get by supporting a video from somebody you hate? That's like some Jesus Christ stuff, or whoever you believe does big forgiveness. It's going to get big karma points sent your way. Who does big forgiveness? Who do you know that does big forgiveness? Let me know down in the comments, and then you'll get your good sports betting karma, even if you hate me, because hate watchers and commenters and big forgiveness. And I will see you tomorrow for the Frozen Frenzy.